But when Margaret sent that to me as an option, she says, it might just be what you're in the mood for. But I said, yeah, why not? Because we are sort of celebrating Halloween today, if you can't tell. All right, so when I was a child, I loved Halloween. But what I loved was the costumes and getting to dress up. I never dressed up evil or creepy, though. I always dressed up in my dance costumes as a kid, so I was like a little Dutch girl. Or I was a little flower with a petal on my head and orange and green tights and things like that. I was flowers, or I was, cute stuff. Because I didn't like scary things. I liked costumes. I liked candy. Still do. But when I was a little kid, nobody talked about All Hallows Eve. Nobody talked about Hallowed Evening, which really means Holy Evening. Nobody talked about that this was once a celebration to honor those who have passed. Now, maybe you grew up hearing that in your childhood. I know that in the Hispanic community, the Dia de los Muertos, they do a better job at honoring those who have passed. But I didn't grow up with that. I grew up with the whole Halloween, but it was mostly candy and costumes. Bobbing for apples. Who remembers bobbing for apples? Nowadays, that would totally creep people out. That a bunch of kids or people were sticking their same spit in the same bucket. We didn't think a thing of it. But now it would be like, oh my God, I'm not putting my mouth in that. Let other kids put their mouth in that. That was a side thing. So I didn't grow up hearing the part that hallowed evening meant a holy evening. It meant it was a time to really reflect on and think about our ancestors. I didn't get that part. And I was kind of bummed about that, but it's kind of turned into, it seems like, when I look at Halloween traditions, what I mostly see and hear is it's turned into this bloody, ghoulish, frightening, creepy, death, evil thing. If you weren't here when I first walked down the aisle, I came up with this on my face. This is what it seems like I see. I don't see as much the creativity as what's right here. I see a lot of the ghoul and the fright and the evil and the ghosts and all that kind of stuff, and monsters. So I thought, okay, I'm going to take Halloween then as a time to talk about, well, what do we think about death and ghosts and psychic phenomena and what happens after this and what about evil? We're going to talk about that today. But let me tell you, I don't like that whole frightening thing. Even as a little tiny child, I lived in a particular neighborhood from 5 to 7 years old, and all of my little friends and our moms, we'd go to this little homemade haunted house thing, and everybody else would go in. And here would be little Sean in her little Dutch girl outfit, 5 or 6 years old, hearing, as people walked in, all I would hear was, ah! And screams taking place on the inside. And I said, I am not going in there. And I never did. Because I didn't like that. I didn't want to scare myself. When I grew up and went to junior high, I had to fit in, of course. You're 12, 13, you gotta be cool. So I went with a bunch of friends to a haunted house. I never, ever went again. Because that whole ghoulish, blood, icky thing is like, why do that to myself? I had 2 friends with me, and the whole time, after about the first 3 minutes, and I realized all these creepy things were jumping out at me in the dark with strobe lights. I had my head buried in one of my friends like this, going through the whole thing, and then things would grab at my ankles. It's like, just get me out of here. I don't really like that part at all. So, I don't really participate too much in Halloween. My beautiful cake. That's about it. So let's take this time to talk about those things like death and whatnot, and evil and ghosts. And what does Ernest Holmes and our philosophy actually say about them? You might be surprised. First of all, Ernest Holmes says, I believe in something, a continuation of life beyond the grave. He doesn't claim to know exactly what it is. He doesn't try to say you have to earn it, or here's what it's going to be, or here's any hoops you have to jump through. Just, I believe in the continuation of our spirit beyond the grave. I thought it was a perfect song that you did for the into the invocation. I am not this body. And so Ernest Holmes would agree with that. We are living in this body. We are spirits temporarily housed in this form. But we are not just this body. We are so much more. And Ernest Holmes agrees, and so along that line he says, the minute we leave this flesh and blood, we are continuing onto something else beyond the grave. That's all I need to say about that. I want to go on to the whole thing about ghosts and psychic phenomena, because you might be surprised. The original Science of Mind textbook that he wrote in 1926 is not the one that most people have for class, because we used the 1938 textbook, which was edited and redacted quite a bit. The original 1926 book has 50 pages of things that he calls psychic phenomena. He talks about ghosts, he talks about seances, he talks about table tipping, he talks about automatic writing, he talks about clairvoyance and clairaudience. 50 pages in this book, where you get a handful in the other Science of Mind textbook. So I'm just going to share a couple things that he said, just because I can. It's weird. So under the heading of spirit communication, he says, there are thousands of cases, this is back in 1926, there are thousands of cases on record where people have penetrated the veil of flesh and seen into the beyond. Okay, cool. In this day and age we go, yeah, so. But, just think about when he was writing. Then this one, so this is all under psychic phenomena. He has this subtitle, Ghosts Sometimes Can Speak. So he already said some people have penetrated the veil. He called it the veil. In his cosmic experience here, he called it the veil. The veil is in between what we call the physical material world and the metaphysical spiritual world. The veil is thin. So, people can see beyond it, but he also says it's the other way around. Now listen to this. It is a well-known fact that ghosts sometimes have the ability to speak or convey some kind of a message to the living. And it is also generally conceded by those who have investigated such matters that once a ghost has had the opportunity to speak, it is seldom ever seen again. Well, but he is talking about self-expression, there isn't he? That the person out of the flesh sometimes needs to express itself. But the thing I think is most fascinating, and he says it's a well-known fact. It is a well-known fact, he says. He's got other things in here, like he talks about ectoplasm. He talks about table tipping at seances, but you know what he says about it? He says, it's so common I don't even need to mention it.
Wow.
Yeah, wow, that's right. Okay, and then my last one is, wait, where did it go? Back. There we are. All right. He says there are certainly more arguments and evidence in favor of the theory of spirit communication than against it. And as far as we are concerned, we are entirely convinced of the reality of this evidence. If spirits really exist, and if we all live in one mind, hold on to that, if we all live in one mind, and if mentality can communicate with mentality without the aid of the physical instrument, then spirit communication must be possible. And since we know that the above stated facts are true, we have no alternative other than to accept the conclusive evidence and realize that while it may be difficult to communicate with the departed, yet it is possible. These things you will not find in the Science of Mind textbook that we use. I think it's ordinary nowadays, but I think it's extraordinary that he was writing about this back then and putting it out there. Now, when we got around to this new book, the people around him said, you better not put that in there because they're going to think you're really weird. Seriously. Maud Allison Latham, who helped him do the copyright on this, they said, you better leave some of that stuff out because it's a little over the edge. And Ernest Holmes really, really wanted to focus on the idea of mental healing, the idea of using spiritual law. He wanted that to be his focus. So he left these things out of the other book. I said, hang on to the thing that says there's only one mind. That one sentence informs almost any question that one can come up with for us to answer here. all the questions